Welcome to This Explainer. Look, today we're going to tackle something that is incredibly relatable and honestly kind of heavy. We're talking about that constant, gnawing feeling that time is just slipping away from you. You know exactly what I mean, right? That sudden 3 a.m. realization that another year has somehow vanished, leaving this literal physical dread in your chest. Well, today we're going to unpack the invisible psychological mechanisms that are actively causing this temporal anxiety. So if you've been carrying this heavy weight around, wondering where all the time went, you are definitely in the right place. Just think about this for a second. Have you ever scrolled through LinkedIn only to see a peer celebrating some massive promotion? Or maybe you're sitting at a family gathering and everyone keeps asking what your, next big step is going to be? And suddenly, bam, you feel this overwhelming sense of panic. You feel like you're falling way behind your friends, your classmates, or your family's expectations, even though you know you're doing your absolute best. You look around and it just seems like everyone else is succeeding first, effortlessly cruising ahead while you're stuck wondering, okay, when are things finally going to work out for me? You're working so incredibly hard, yet there's this heavy looming feeling that you haven't achieved what you were culturally supposed to by now. So let's get into section 1, the panic of falling behind. First off, let's acknowledge something absolutely crucial right up front. You are not lazy. What you're experiencing doesn't mean you failed, and it for sure doesn't mean it's too late for you. This idea of measuring your own chapter 1 against someone else's chapter 10 really hits the nail on the head. It's the psychology of comparison. We get so discouraged because we unfairly compare our messy beginnings to someone else's distant milestones. And let's be real, social media makes this 1,000 times worse by only showing us everyone's chapter 10 highlight reel. We never see their rough drafts. So when you see others zooming ahead, your brain panics and tells you that you're totally out of time. But psychological research actually shows that people who find lasting success eventually stop asking, why am I behind, and shift all that energy into what they can improve next on their own unique path. Which brings us to section 2, surviving versus truly living. For so many of us, life slowly morphs into this never-ending series of obligations instead of actual lived experiences. Your alarm blares, you wake up, and you instantly start putting out fires. You pay the bills, you meet those rigid deadlines, you handle the exact same repetitive responsibilities, and then you just collapse into bed, completely depleted, only to wake up and repeat the exact same loop the next day. You're not thriving here. You're literally just trapped managing the bare baseline of survival. And when you spend too much time just surviving and not actually living, your very existence becomes exhausting. It's like running on a treadmill at max speed, totally out of breath, only to realize the scenery hasn't changed one bit. The brain panics in this state because it feels like time is rapidly running out without any sense of personal meaning, novelty, or actual enjoyment. You're not experiencing life. You're just maintaining it. And when you're just in maintenance mode, the passage of time stops being this landscape of opportunity and turns into a looming threat. Let's move on to section 3, the myth of visible growth. Now, people feel like time is running out because, well, human nature intensely craves immediate rewards. We want to look at our lives and instantly see visible results. But progress is super deceiving. Think about the Chinese bamboo tree. You can plant the seed, water it, fertilize it for 5 whole years, and see absolutely nothing above the soil. To anyone looking, it seems like a total failure. But what's actually happening? It's building a massive, complex root system underground. Then, boom, in the 5th year, it shoots up 80 feet in just 6 weeks. And that's exactly how human progress works. You're spending years building knowledge, gaining soft skills, and learning from mistakes totally behind the scenes, way before any visible results ever break through the surface. Have you ever felt completely exhausted at the end of a day where you seemingly achieved, well, nothing? Human beings fundamentally need a sense of forward momentum. We feel motivated when we believe our actions are actually taking us somewhere meaningful. So when every single day feels identical and those routines just endlessly repeat without any visible payoff, the brain goes into this state of severe emotional fatigue, clinically known as stagnation. It makes you feel like you're stuck in the mud, and it massively amplifies that crippling anxiety that your time is running out. So we really have to remember this powerful truth. Not all growth is visible. Just because your progress is happening entirely behind the scenes, deep in the soil where nobody can see it yet, does not mean your time is being wasted. Actually, this underground phase is often the most cognitively demanding period of a person's life. That's exactly why you feel so tired all the time. You're growing, you're building capacity, and you're rewiring your brain, even when it feels like you are standing completely still. All right, section 4, the power of late success. This is a deeply fascinating psychological shift that honestly we just don't talk about enough. When we're young, our confidence usually comes from pure, naive optimism, this untested belief that things will just magically work out. But later in life, true, unshakable confidence doesn't come from blind optimism. It comes from the hard evidence of our lived experiences. True resilience is built by actually failing, hitting rock bottom, and recovering. So when you're older, your confidence is rooted in knowing exactly what you are capable of surviving because you actually have the proof. People dealing with temporal anxiety often fear they've totally missed their window of opportunity. But listen, these years of making mistakes, suffering personal losses, and making poor choices, that is not wasted time. It's an extended timeline that allows you to recognize highly complex patterns. This is exactly why late bloomers often make incredibly rapid progress once they finally find their lane. They aren't starting from scratch. They're applying decades of subconscious pattern recognition that a 22-year-old simply doesn't have yet. Your timeline might be longer, but your judgment at the end of it, it's vastly stronger. Let's wrap this up with Section 5, redefining your timeline. The big takeaway here is that feeling like you're running out of time absolutely does not mean your story is over. More often than not, it just means you've been carrying the incredibly heavy, exhausting weight of artificial social expectations. We really need to remember that the whole concept of being behind is largely a made-up social construct. It's not a biological or psychological reality. You have got to stop comparing your quiet, invisible progress to the loud, visible results of everyone else. Just realize that success, personal fulfillment, and meaning, they do not have an expiration date attached to them. The foundations that take the longest to build are the ones that last the longest. Really think about that for a second. The structures in our lives that require the most time, the most patience, and the most invisible work behind the scenes are exactly the ones that will weather absolutely any storm. A longer timeline ultimately leads to lasting stability and profound personal growth simply because your roots are anchored incredibly deep. If understanding the invisible psychology behind your life helps you make sense of the world, definitely consider subscribing to the channel. Because once you understand the why behind how we feel, you start seeing human behavior in a way most people just never do. But before you go, I really want you to ask yourself this one crucial question. Why let societal milestones dictate your timeline when your foundation is still being built? Are you going to keep measuring your invisible progress against everyone else's visible results? Take a deep breath. You have way more time than you think.